Good evening, friends. Welcome back to the channel. Today is August 5th, 2026, and we are tracking massive breaking developments in the medical world. If you or someone you love is dealing with Alzheimer's, a major breakthrough just dropped today that completely changes how we view the disease. Plus, the FDA faces a massive deadline today on a game-changing mRNA vaccine. We are also tracking a worsening public health emergency in the US that has hit a 35-year high. In the next 20 minutes, we are breaking down the top 5 stories you need to know about today, from revolutionary cancer tech to critical global health updates. Smash that subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and let's dive into today's medical briefing. Story 1: Alzheimer's breakthrough, it's not what we thought. Our top story today comes from the University of Florida, where a groundbreaking study published today in Cell Reports Medicine has completely flipped our understanding of Alzheimer's disease on its head. For decades, scientists have known that as the brain ages, its ability to process glucose, simple sugar, slows down. In Alzheimer's patients, this slowdown is incredibly severe. But for years, the medical community assumed this sluggish sugar metabolism was just a bystander, a side effect of the brain cells already dying from the disease. Today's study proved that theory wrong. By studying post-mortem human brains, researchers discovered that slower glucose and glycogen metabolism in the brain actually drives and fuels Alzheimer's pathology. It is a cause, not just a consequence. Dr. Stefan Prokop, who led this research, explicitly stated today that sugar metabolism is actively driving the disease. Why does this matter to you? Because it gives us a direct, scientific link as to why lifestyle factors work. We've always heard that physical exercise and low-carbohydrate diets protect against dementia, but now we know why. They directly modulate how much glucose is stored in your brain cells. This shifts Alzheimer's care from a mindset of unavoidable genetic fate to an actionable, metabolic target. If we can fix the brain's fuel lines early, we might stop the pathology before it ever starts. Story 2: FDA PDUFA clock winding down for Moderna's flu and injection vial labeled mRNA 1010, and PDUFA deadline, August 5, 2026. Moving on to regulatory news. Today, August 5, is the official PDUFA action date for Moderna's highly anticipated seasonal influenza vaccine, known as mRNA 1010. The FDA is expected to announce its final approval decision by the end of the day. This isn't your standard flu shot. mRNA 1010 is designed specifically for adults aged 50 and older, a demographic where traditional flu shots often lose their efficacy because of aging immune systems. Let's break down why the pharmaceutical world is watching this decision so closely. Asterisk the tech: it utilizes the same mRNA technology that scaled during the pandemic, allowing scientists to update the strains much faster to match rapidly mutating seasonal flu variants. Asterisk the advisory support: the FDA's Vaccines and Related Biological Products Advisory Committee recently debated this data, showing a strong immune response against influenza A and B strains. Asterisk the competition: this decision comes just days after the FDA approved Viatris's Quinlo contraceptive patch, https://www.drugs.com/newdrugs.html, on July 28 and gave tentative approval to an advanced formulation of the cancer capsule, Omcasio, on August 4. An approval today would officially solidify mRNA's status as a dominant force in routine, seasonal preventative care. Story 3: NIH drops the largest human cancer model collection in history. If you want to know what the future of cancer treatment looks like, look no further than an announcement made today by the National Institutes of Health, NIH. Today, an international research collaboration funded by the NIH officially catalogued a massive compendium of patient-derived tumor models, spanning 25 different tumor types sourced from thousands of individual patient donors. Why is this a massive deal for oncology? Traditionally, when scientists want to test a new chemotherapy or immunotherapy drug, they test it on old, laboratory-grown cell lines that have been sitting in dishes for decades. These lines don't act like real cancer inside a real human body. This new NIH compendium provides hyper-realistic, diverse, patient-derived models. Asterisk it will allow scientists to test drugs on exact replicas of human tumors without risking a patient's life. It drastically accelerates the timeline for precision medicine, meaning a doctor can eventually look at your specific tumor type and match it to a drug that has already been verified on an identical model in this database. This drop happens to coincide with a massive public push for accessible oncology treatments worldwide. For context, earlier this year, countries like India took radical legislative steps such as completely eliminating customs duties on 17 life-saving cancer drugs in their 2026 budget. https://www.youtube.com/shorts/xxdvbbwy5rs to lower patient costs. Between structural cost cutting and the data drop from the NIH today, the war on cancer is moving faster than ever before. Story 4, Public Health. Health alerts, outbreaks and rollbacks. Now, we have to look at some alarming public health data coming out of the United States today. According to the latest data tracked by Paging America and federal agencies, the U.S. has officially recorded more measles cases in 2026 than in any of the last 35 years. Public health officials are sounding the alarm over a drastic drop in routine childhood vaccinations, which has completely compromised herd immunity in several key states. But that's not the only outbreak we're tracking today. The CDC is currently scrambling to manage the worst cyclosporiasis outbreak in American history. There are currently over 18,000 cases nationwide, with the epicenter located in Michigan, which accounts for over 11,000 cases and has sadly just recorded its first 2 deaths. Cyclosporiasis is a parasitic intestinal illness typically contracted by consuming contaminated food or water. If you are in the Midwest, health authorities are urging extreme caution with raw produce. To complicate matters, this health crisis comes during a chaotic week for healthcare access. Because of strict work requirement guidelines embedded in recent federal budget bills, millions of Americans officially began losing their Medicaid benefits this week. Policy experts warn this could result in the largest rollback of health coverage in the history of the program, leaving vulnerable populations exposed right as these outbreaks peak. Story 5, Global Innovations and Corporate Shakeups. To wrap up our briefing, let's take a quick look around the globe at the medical tech and pharmaceutical landscape. First, in medical devices, orthopedics giant Zimmer Biomet just released its Q2 2026 financial earnings today, posting a 4.8% increase in net sales to $2.177 billion. This surge highlights a massive post-mid-2020s boom in elective joint replacements and advanced surgeries as older populations globally seek to regain mobility. On a similar note, India is kicking off its 9th annual medical device conference this week, focusing heavily on self-reliant medical manufacturing to make everything from automated stents to surgical tools radically cheaper for developing nations. Meanwhile, the World Health Organization, WHO, https://news.un.org//story/2026/08/11687072, gave a critical update today regarding the Ebola outbreak in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Thanks to pre-planned clinical protocols established earlier this year, a new trial for a vaccine targeting the elusive Bundibugyo species of the virus has launched faster than any previous trial in history. While the WHO says it will take several months to see definitive efficacy data, the speed of deployment is a massive win for pandemic preparedness. ROP. In the recent issue of JAMA Pediatrics, Hellstrom and colleagues report dexamethasone eye drops to prevent treatment requiring retinopathy of prematurity, the DROP-ROP randomized clinical trial, for a study evaluating topical dexamethasone eye drops for type 2 pre-threshold ROP, JAMAnetwork.com. Key takeaways from the guideline, ARDS. Consider systemic corticosteroids for patients with ARDS to inhibit pro-inflammatory mediators and lower mortality rates. Administer corticosteroids to intubated or non-intubated patients if the underlying etiology is known to respond favorably to steroids, such as COVID-19 or severe CAP. Limit the initiation of corticosteroid therapy to within 14 days of ARDS onset, as starting steroids more than 2 weeks after disease onset is linked to adverse outcomes. Maintain strict surveillance for adverse events during steroid therapy, particularly in patients who are immunocompromised, have metabolic syndrome, or live in areas where tuberculosis and parasitic infection are endemic. Exhausts less invasive interventions such as lung protective ventilation, higher PEEP, neuromuscular blockade, and prone positioning before escalating care to VVCMO. VVCMO equals venous ECMO. Select patients for VVCMO who are early in their disease course, less than 7 days from onset, have reversible causes, and present with severe hypercapnia, pH less than 7.25 with PCO2 greater than 60 mm of mercury, or severe hypoxemia, PaO2/VO2 less than 80% mmHg, refractory to conventional care. Consider the transfer of eligible patients who meet strict severity criteria to specialized, high-volume ECMO centers to optimize safety and clinical outcomes. Recommend NMBAs, neuromuscular blocking agents. A maximum duration of 48 hours specifically in patients with early severe ARDS, defined as an onset less than 48 hours and a PaO2/VO2 less than or equal to 100 mm of mercury. Reserve NMBAs for patients who are deeply sedated or show clear, persistent ventilator desynchrony with clinical worsening that cannot be corrected by adjustments to sedation or ventilator settings. Implement a higher PEEP strategy without LRMs, lung recruitment maneuver, than a lower PEEP strategy for patients with moderate to severe ARDS. Avoid the routine use of extended LRMs, PEEP greater than or equal to 35 cm H2O for greater than 60 seconds, as they carry a high risk of dangerous hemodynamic compromise and alveolar overdistension. Titrate higher PEEP using oxygenation-based tables, increasing PEEP to a maximal safe plateau pressure, or maximal respiratory compliance metrics, depending on clinician expertise and continuous hemodynamic monitoring. Medscape. Among adolescents in the Adolescent Brain Cognitive Development Study, increasing #social media use, regardless of initial baseline, was associated with modestly reduced cognitive performance on multiple NIH toolbox assessments, including reading recognition, episodic memory, and vocabulary. These associations persisted after adjustment for #ADHD symptoms, #depression symptoms, household income, parent education, and other screen time. Clinicians should consider not only how much social media #adolescents use, but also changes in use over time. However, differences in #cognition were small and may reflect other underlying factors beyond digital activity. JAMAnetwork.com. And finally, a quick lifestyle warning from a peer-reviewed study published yesterday in PLOS Medicine. Researchers tracked 91,000 adults over 12 years and found that sitting uninterrupted for more than 30 minutes increases your risk of dying from cancer by 10% for every additional hour, and here is the kicker, even if you exercise regularly. So if you are watching this video at a desk right now, consider this your official cue to stand up and stretch. Outro and call to action. That is your medical briefing for August 5, 2026. We covered everything from metabolic drivers of Alzheimer's to historic public health crises. Now, I want to hear from you. What do you think about the new findings linking sugar processing to Alzheimer's pathology? Do you think this will change how you plan your daily nutrition? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. Don't forget to like this video if you found it valuable, share it with someone who needs to stay updated, and make sure you're subscribed for more cutting-edge health and medical news. Stay healthy, stay informed, and I'll see you in the next video. Disclaimer: compiled information. This content is for educational purposes and is not a substitute for professional advice. The audience must verify the contents before use. The creator, publisher, and YouTube will not be responsible for any harm.